It hasn't come often, but there's actually a coach who spoke highly of Deion Sanders and his transfer portal methods, Lincoln Riley from USC. I'm going to talk about why on today's episode of Locked On Buffs.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? This is Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Bohr. With today's episode, we're going to be talking about a few different things. We're going to be talking about why Lincoln Riley praised Coach Prime and his transfer portal method. We're going to be talking about Charles Lester and the intense recruiting battle that is coming for the next 3 days, I guess you could say. And then we're going to talk about how Coach Prime actually got started coaching and what led to that. Kind of a funny reason, but nonetheless, it was a good reason. And now he's in the midst of leading a program back to glory. So everyone hopes. Before we start, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Buffs your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to follow, subscribe, whatever. It's your team every single day. We're right here. Okay. Over the past weekend, it was Pac-12 Media Day. Coaches, players from all over the Pac-12 went to Las Vegas and endured the 113-degree heat to discuss the upcoming Pac-12 season. And realistically, it would have been fascinating, really, truly fascinating. I think the attendance would have been through the freaking roof if Coach Prime went. But unfortunately, he had his surgeries, which we got updates, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that it was a solid, successful surgery. And he's recovering. So Charles Kelly went on his behalf. However, just because he wasn't there doesn't mean there weren't questions asked about him. And one of the people that was asked a question about him was USC head coach Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley is kind of I don't know, I wouldn't say so much anymore. I feel like we've kind of forgotten about it, or at least it doesn't feel like it anymore. Last year, I would say he was the villain of college football. He left Oklahoma after basically guaranteeing he wouldn't, which, I mean, every coach does that. But the thing about Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma was they thought he was going to LSU. And so he was saying, I'm not going to LSU, which technically I guess he wasn't. He wasn't leaving Oklahoma for LSU. So he kept saying that, I'm not leaving for LSU. I'm not leaving, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden he leaves for USC. And it was like, well, that was a technicality, I guess. He did leave, but not for LSU. So whatever. Anyway, he goes to USC, which had been a struggling program. Haven't had a lot of success since 2017. And in order to rebuild his roster, what does he do? Well, he brings Caleb Williams over from Oklahoma. He brings Latrell McCutcheon. He brings Eric Gentry from Arizona State. He brings a lot of people. Mario Williams from Oklahoma. So he brought in over 20 transfers to really boost what was a bad USC team and what was a struggling USC program. And obviously, they were in a much better situation roster-wise than Colorado. But people were not pleased with how he used the transfer portal. But it's within the rules. Same thing with Coach Prime. It's within the rules. No rules were broken, and that's just how. I don't know if that's how the portal was intended to be used, but that's how it's going to forever be used until there's some limitations put on it. So when asked about what he thought about Coach Prime, he said the exact same thing. He said, I give Sanders credit. We all know what the rules are. We all know what the parameters are, and our job is to build the best team that we can for the universities that give us the opportunity to do it. No excuses. And then later on, he said this was Coach Prime talking about his roster overhaul with Carl Reed. Obviously, this was like a month or so ago, but I just wanted to add it too. He said, I don't understand how you think the coaching staff is the only thing that deserve to change. Now, when you get rid of yourself of the entire coaching staff, you think you're going to keep all the kids. That doesn't make sense to me. And that just doesn't make sense to whatsoever. The previous staff was responsible for securing their kids. That's not the way this game is played with us. So honestly, I think it's with Lincoln Riley coming forward, because we've seen Pat Narduzzi, we've seen Matt Rule, Jim Mora. I feel like I'm missing the most recent one. Brent Venables, kind of. Oklahoma fans will deny it, whatever. But here's the thing. They've all come forward and they've all kind of talked bad about it. And realistically, they could do the same. Brent Venables could have done the same thing. He could have brought in so many transfers. Obviously, all the guys that left Oklahoma to follow Lincoln Riley, USC, could have used the portal to replace them. He used the portal in some ways, but I think the fact that Coach Prime brought in 50 transfers, it's different because people were like, we're okay with the transfer portal, but not that much transfer portal. So I feel like there's eventually gonna be I think there's gonna be some sort of limit. I don't know if it's gonna be implemented anytime soon, but I just have to imagine that they're going to, if enough people complain and they end up not liking how the transfer portal is working and how it's affecting high school recruiting or junior college or whatever, I don't know if they'll actually care, but I think some coaches will be calling for limits on how many transfers you can bring in to kind of prevent this from happening again. Coach Prime flipped the roster, though. It was a horrible roster. Just I didn't have talent where they needed, losing mentality, and obviously they weren't his guys that he brought in. So, and he's already had success flipping rosters, flipping Jackson State roster. So he knows it works, or at least we're going to find out if it works at the Power 5 level, but he knows it can work in some capacity. So I thought that was interesting, especially for Lincoln Riley, who I feel like he's a mind your own business type of guy. I think he's very anti talking to the media. I don't think he's ever really is excited to talk to the media, especially when it comes to quarterback battles. Go back to Oklahoma. No, but I think it was good for him to talk highly of Coach Prime, because I think a lot of people have gotten away with just bashing Coach Prime because he's doing something different. And so for a coach to actually come forward, and a coach like Lincoln Riley, who's already publicly scrutinized for everything he does, whether it's cooking, barbecuing, whatever, for him to go out there and be like, that's the rules. Like, it is what it is. Like, I mean, obviously we know he does it too, but so did Brett Venables. He used the portal, brought in not as many guys, but he brought in guys. You know, all these coaches had opportunities to bring in the Colorado players, and I don't think none of the ones that complained brought in the Colorado players. So to see another head coach kind of put himself out there and defend Coach Prime, I thought that was very honorable of Lincoln Riley. So not everybody wants to be the guy to speak out. Okay, this episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So, the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you could be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit, or your money back. Because, just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors, and with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Okay, we talked about Lincoln Riley's stance on Coach Prime and why he didn't have any problems with it, because here's the thing. He did not the same thing, but he did something similar. I think other coaches are a little upset. They don't like change. College football is notoriously a place where people oppose change. And so it is what it is, I guess. But to see another coach come forward and support, I feel like that's kind of, it doesn't really mean anything, but it also is nice, I guess you could say. Okay, time to talk recruiting. Charles Lester the third, 5-star corner out of Venice, Florida. He transferred from Venice. Started off at Riverview High School, which is somewhere in the Venice area, I believe. I don't know where that is, actually. His little profile doesn't say. I'm not going to pretend to know Florida, but he transferred from Venice to Venice, excuse me. Plays a little bit of everything. Plays quarterback, receiver, but he's viewed as a defensive back at the next level. Ranked as the 19th overall recruit in the 2024 class. His commitment is scheduled for Friday, July 28th, and he's been talked about for the longest time. He's viewed as a Florida State guy. He's viewed as a Florida State lock. Steve Wiltfong has, let's see. I'm on his recruiting profile right now. He has Steve Wiltfong, Florida State. Justin Tyne, or Thind, Michigan State Insider, Florida State. Zach Blostein, Knowles 24/7, Florida State. Chris Nee, Knowles 24/7, Florida State. Brennan Sononi, I don't know how to say his last name. Knowles 24/7, Florida State. So it is long he's long been viewed as a Florida State lock. In a report by On3, they said that Florida State kind of already acts as if he's part of the class. So not a big, kind of a big blow to Colorado. I think this was the one that they were hoping, and honestly, it could still happen. We saw Josh Newberg, friend of the show. He's come on the show a couple times from On3. He tweeted the hypothetical: how would Florida State fans feel if Charles Lester took a impromptu visit to Colorado? Which I think would be like one more go at it. Maybe one more time to see, maybe one more time to mingle or something. Or maybe it's his time to tell Coach Prime that he's not going, which I would respect if he did tell him in person. Usually it's over the phone, or usually it's not at all. So, oh, by the way, before I continue, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Buffs your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. We got some great guests coming up next week. We're one of the best previews in the country. Pick 6 previews. The writer of that will be coming on. So you won't want to miss that. Okay, back to Charles Lester. Charles Lester III. He's been talked about as, like I said, a Florida State guy this whole entire time. But Colorado got in the mix. They got a visit. They got him on campus, which is important. And realistically, it doesn't seem like it will be enough if all these recruiting predictions are any indicator. But Josh Newberg did tweet the other day. It was like a hypothetical. How would Florida State fans feel if he took another impromptu visit to Colorado, which honestly that sent a lot of people into a frenzy. The Florida State fans were not upset. They started doing those message board meltdowns. They were exposed on that message board geniuses page on Twitter. But it was just, I don't know if they are getting the visit. Josh Newberg seems to think so. So let's assume that he's going to visit within either the next couple days. If he does, then maybe Coach Prime has another chance to kind of sneak in there and flip him. If not, it looks like this recruitment is all but done and headed to Florida State. But however, we know very well, all my Colorado fans out there, all my Jackson State fans out there, all my Florida State fans out there, we know that until pen is put to paper, no recruit is safe from Coach Prime, because we've seen it with Travis Hunter, long time Florida State commit, long time, like probably already had a locker at Florida State, and then all of a sudden on signing day, he takes a random visit to Jackson State, and all of a sudden on signing day, he's flipping his commitment to Jackson State from Florida State. Colorado and Florida State have gone head to head for quite a few recruits. I would say it's kind of an unexpected rivalry, but with Coach Prime wanting to be in the Florida market so much, that's obviously going to happen more than it probably ever happened before. And now Colorado has a very respected head coach, and people are wanting to play for him. So Colorado, Florida State recruiting battles continue. They're going to continue until Coach Prime is, I guess, until he takes over, or unless he leaves, I guess. But here's the thing. It wasn't just Travis Hunter. He got Cormani McClain out of the grasp of Miami, Florida, Florida State, UCF, USF. All the Florida schools wanted this kid, 5-star. Every Florida school wanted him. Coach Prime got him. So even if Charles Lester doesn't commit to Colorado, I think it'd be a kind of a blow to the class, just because I would say this Colorado class is kind of getting off to a slow start. Obviously, I know Coach Prime values a transfer portal, but Colorado's 2024 class currently ranks as the 61st class in the country. They have 8 commits. Their highest ranked commit is ranked 65th in the country, and he's the only one ranked within the top 24, within the top 247 players, with the next closest being Brandon Davis Swain, who ranks he ranks 214th in the 24/7 Sports Composite, but does not rank within the top 24/7 according to 24/7 Sports. So I feel like they could use another big boost in the recruiting class, and I don't know if it's going to be Charles Lester. We're going to have to wait and see. But I do think it's interesting that there's kind of a little rumor floating about that he could take another visit And maybe that's the difference. Maybe that's when Colorado makes their big push. Charles Kelly is a great recruiter. Sal Sinceri, great recruiter. Coach Prime, obviously a fantastic recruiter. And maybe they use the fact that he could play both ways for them as to their advantage. Don't know if that's something he'll get to do at Florida State. So keep your eyes peeled. Make sure to pay attention, because even though all the experts are saying Florida State, you never know. You never know with Coach Prime, and that's the great thing about him is he's going to keep pushing and he's going to keep making efforts to land a recruit, even if that guy's committed. Okay, before we come back, I want to tell you guys what we're going to talk about after we come back. We're going to talk about how Coach Prime got his start in coaching. I think a lot of people obviously know he had a great football career, great baseball career, but how did he end up on the sidelines? And I'm going to tell you guys when we come back. Welcome back. We're talking about how Coach Prime got his start on the sidelines. I think everyone is well aware. Coach Prime, Florida State legend, went there, balled out, went to the NFL, first round pick, told certain NFL teams didn't want to be there. First round pick, balled out, played defensive back, played receiver at the NFL level, while also balancing an MLB career, which is pretty impressive. And not only did he balance an MLB career, he was quite productive in that MLB career. Like, he was actually pretty solid. I wouldn't say he wasn't like Bo Jackson, where it was like he was an all-star, but he was solid. He was a really good player, and one of the best athletes we've ever seen. But it was kind of unexpected the past few years to see him get into coaching. And so in the summer issue of the Coloradan, a magazine produced by Colorado's Alumni Association, Maria Kuntz asked Sanders why he entered the world of coaching. And so this is what he said. What drew me to coaching was fulfilling a need. I was watching my youngest two sons at football practice, and it was horrible. I mean, the coaches didn't know what they were doing, and they had these kids colliding and hitting each other. So I went out there and tried to teach the proper protocol for what they needed to do. And I sat back down like a real parent. Then I saw something else, and I couldn't take it. So I went out there and helped them. By the second or third time I was running the whole practice, I said to myself, if you're going to do this, you're not going to do it with anybody else. Do it your own way. And so he did that. And then I believe, let me pull it up here. He also officially got his start in 2017 because, let's see. So Deion Sanders, or Coach Prime, has had quite the rise through the coaching ranks. He started at a prep school in 2012, 2013. Had some issues there where he was let go for something that he claimed did not happen. But he ended up being a coach or offensive coordinator at Trinity Christian in Texas, which from 2015 to 2017, which he ultimately parlayed into being the head coach of Jackson State. He was very offensive minded there. So obviously his rise in the coaching ranks has gone pretty quickly. At any time you could go from basically an parent assistant to head coach offensive coordinator to a head coach of a college program, you're doing something right. And obviously he has a ton of football knowledge. He'll probably have more football knowledge than he'll probably forget his football knowledge and still have more football knowledge than 99.9% of people that are in the football world, including myself. I will never claim to know more than Coach Prime. I just thought that was interesting. I think he saw a need. I think he had the itch to coach. Realistically, I think for a lot of guys, a lot of athletes, you spend their whole life playing a sport or being involved in a sport every weekend, whether it's football, basketball, baseball. For basketball, baseball, every weekend you play in tournaments as a kid growing up. For football, every weekend you play in these 7-7 tournaments now. Then you go to college and your whole identity is being an athlete. You hang out with the boys. You play football. I'm sure partying it up because football players definitely get that cool treatment. And then you go to the NFL, like for Coach Prime, he goes to the NFL. Not everybody does, but even the guys that don't go to the NFL, you have that itch. You're like, my whole life was football. My whole life was whatever sport I played. And so how do I get back into it? Obviously, Coach Prime was able to play professionally and have quite the career. But I think he had that itch. He had a lot of knowledge to pass along. And when you have a lot of knowledge to pass along and you see an opportunity to pass it along, it's a great opportunity to do so. And he also gets to bond with his sons. Not a lot of kids get to play college football for their dad. I don't know. And I don't think it's a good thing for a lot of kids, but for Coach Prime, I think he's got one of the toughest cultures out there. He's probably just as hard on his kids, if not harder, than he is on anybody else. We've seen him already publicly kind of get after Shiloh. He benched Shiloh last year for being late to something. And so I think Coach Prime, he had the edge for coaching, and now it's turned into he's trying to turn around a Power 5 program, and it's going to be a fascinating story along the way. Colorado's set to visit TCU in almost feels like over a little over a month. It's going to be so exciting. You guys won't want to miss it. And to follow along, make sure you're following us here at Locked On Buffs. We got you covered every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. Make sure to comment below. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day. You guys couldn't do it without you. Have a great day. Have a great Tuesday, if you will.